So I want to welcome you all to our Marjory's Circle virtual meetup. This is something we've done every year, and we make a concerted effort to gather our Marjory's Circle members because we see you all as such a valuable part of our community. I'm Eve Samples. I'm Executive Director at Friends of the Everglades. I know most of you, and it's really an honor to lead Friends of the Everglades and work with the team that's here on the line. So the purpose of this meetup tonight is twofold. First, we want to connect you. We've done that in person on occasion, and we also want to update you on the really important and impactful work that your support through Marjory's Circle has empowered. We could not do this without you. We initiated Marjory's Circle in 2020 at the height of COVID, or at least the height of the COVID mania. And we didn't have an opportunity to get together in person as often. And yet we found that there was such a strong desire to carry forward Marjory's legacy, to stand up for the environmental protections that she stood for, to connect with nature in the ways that we could during those peak COVID days. So it's been a really meaningful program for us at Friends of the Everglades, a catalyst for our impact, and we want to thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about our mission, just briefly to orient you. You all are among our closest supporters, so I think you're familiar with our mission, but I want to underscore that the heart of our work is to preserve, protect, and restore the only Everglades in the world. And when we talk about the Everglades, we think about the greater Everglades ecosystem, starting north of Lake Okeechobee, reaching east and west of the lake, flowing south down what was once the River of Grass to Everglades National Park and Florida Bay. We're based in Stewart. We have been since 2019, in part because of the Lake Okeechobee part of the problem and its connectedness to the ultimate solutions to restore the flow of water to the River of Grass south. So since founding Marjory's Circle in 2020, and several of you were founding members, thank you. We have grown and we are currently 71 members strong. And you can see that our members hail from all over the state of Florida. We have members up in the Northeast, in New York, in Connecticut. We have members in Ohio, Atlanta, Seattle. In fact, I think Vicki Conrad, who is our Seattle member, had planned to join us tonight. I don't see her on the line yet, but we really appreciate the diversity of this group, and we're looking to grow this group. And I hope you all will indulge me for a moment because this is an intimate crowd and we want this to be interactive. I'm going to pause here so that we can go around the horn and make some introductions and hear from you. So I'm going to put Connie Washburn on the spot and ask her to introduce herself. Say where you are, please, Connie, and how long you've been involved with Friends of the Everglades.
Okay. I am Connie Washburn. I have been in close work and contact with Friends of the Everglades since 1994. Probably before some of you were born, Allie. When were you born?
91.
Aha, well, I just missed it. In any case, my connection with Friends of the Everglades and the reason I first got involved was because I was a teacher in at Howard Drive in Miami, Florida. We had a bunch of really interested in the environment and the Everglades fourth graders that was highly promoted by their teachers. And I took kids to meet Marjory. We went to her 105th birthday, and it was all very sweet. And I've been on the board ever since, except when I was away in Spain. And it's been a passion of mine for many years, and it continues to be. And I'm very happy and proud to be involved with Friends of the Everglades.
Thank you, Connie. It's our honor to work with you. I'm going to pass it to Susan. Susan, I believe you were one of our first Marjory's Circle members and you've come to our events. Will you tell us a little bit about where you are, why you got involved?
And I'm on the west coast of Florida, but so I'm only too happy to come to the east side. I just love the Everglades. I've done a lot of kayaking down there, a lot of kayak camping, and it's just such a beautiful place for me. Anything I can do to support it, I do. That's all.
Thank you. And thanks for taking the time to be here to learn about our impacts with your support. I'll pass it to Patty.
Patty Forcan. I'm in Naples. I'm very active with the League of Women Voters here in Collier County. And I met Eve through the Environmental Coalition, Everglades Coalition. And my adult life, I worked on marine issues in Washington, D.C. and many other kinds of things. But I remember coming down to Florida to talk to the legislators about using live rabbits to train greyhounds. And it was so ridiculous because said, oh, little lady, we don't use the Easter bunny. And of course, I had a white rabbit hanging. And so my memory of Tallahassee is not high grade. It was like I had been doing a lot of legislative work in Washington, and this was really crazy place. So I never thought I'd end up in Florida. But down here, there's so much to be done, and it's endless. I didn't think I would be naive after working in Washington, but I have to say, I had no idea how much the developers controlled this state. And it's very unpleasant to have to deal with it. But anyhow, we're plugging away, and I'm hoping the panther lives. I have grave doubts about it, but we'll see. Anyway, I met Eve at the EVCO, and I joined Marjory, I guess, maybe 3-4 years ago. So I'm a newbie.
Thank you, Patty. And Tallahassee is still insane, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight, but we have played some successful defense this year, again, with your support. I also want to thank you, Patty, for the great work you do with the League of Women Voters Collier County. That's the best League of Women Voters I have seen in action personally, and you all do a lot of great environmental work, so appreciate that. All right, we'll keep going around the horn here. Jim, are you able to introduce yourself and say hello?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm a new member of Marjory Circle, but I've given for years to the Friends of the Everglades, Miami native. As a kid, swam in lakes. I hate to say that I skied in canals and touched that water, but I did. And just seen the tremendous changes over the years. As a kid, we took trips to the springs, to Sanibel, and just all over Florida. It was just a great being a kid. That was a long time ago. But since I've been a kid, but this organization seems to be the most focused in terms of things that I'm interested in terms of waking people up and getting them involved.
Thank you, Jim. We
You're
were based in Miami for 50 years and moved to Stewart in 2019, but still very active in Miami. I'm a Miami native. I think we may have at least one other Miami native on the line, at least South Florida native. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
I'll pass it to Diane. Diane, are you able to say hello?
She's muted.
Oh, you don't want to see me. I've got paint all over me, but I am as close to a South Florida native. Came to Fort Lauderdale in 3, and the Friends of the Everglades. I'm just proud to be associated and a member of Marjory Circle because it aligns with my own values, and I just support the board and the work that you're doing, and just onward, following in Marjory's footsteps to make a difference in our own world here.
Thank you, Diane. Well put. We'll go to Ellen. Ellen, great to see you here.
Let me see if I can get my camera on because I'm doing many things, including having an ice pack on my shoulder. I missed the beginning of the call. What are we supposed to be talking about?
Please just introduce yourself, say where you are and why you're a member of Marjory's Circle, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Well, at the moment I'm in Stewart, but we just got back last night from Massachusetts, so that's why I'm kind of a little frazzled and trying to get caught up with things. I've been in Florida for 30 some odd years, and I just know how important the Everglades are to all of us and to the state and to me and in my backyard. And I just thought Marjory's Circle was a way to go.
We're happy to have you here. Thank you, Ellen, and thanks for the work you've literally done in your backyard with some living shoreline efforts. Really important work.
Actually, I've got 3 different research projects going on at my dock, so it's very exciting.
I need to get updated.
Yeah, Orca has 1 and FOS has 2.
That's great. Walking the walk. We appreciate it. All right, we'll go to our staff now. I'll start with Scott.
Hi, everyone. I'm Scott Brown, Development Director here at Friends of the Everglades. And my first experience with the Everglades was when my grandparents moved to Naples. That was late 70s, around 1980. So I was young at the time, and part of our visit was going out to visit the Everglades. I'm originally from Virginia and moved here most recently from Fernandina Beach.
Thanks, Scott. Go over to Allie.
Hi there, I'm Allie Hartman. I've been involved with Friends of the Everglades and our affiliated organization, Vote Water, since 2016. I was born and raised here in Stewart, so getting involved with an organization that was protecting home waters felt like a natural progression for me, and it's just been more and more rewarding the longer I've been here.
Thanks, Allie. Last but not least, Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Purnell, and I most recently hail from Colorado. I'm like Patty, I'm pretty new to the Everglades, but have become very passionate in the past year and a half or so. My background is in education in the classroom, and environmental education has always been a passion of mine. So it's a dream to be with this amazing team.
Thanks, Amanda. And I see Phil has joined us. Phil, you're just in time. We just did a round of introductions. And if you don't mind introducing yourself, saying where you're based and your connection to Friends of the Everglades and Marjory Circle.
Oh, right on time then.
Exactly.
So I'm a little late. I was on a Vote Water call, the sister organization of Friends of the Everglades. My name's Phil Cushland. I'm the board chair, and I'm based in Coconut Grove.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate you being here. So I'm going to go back to our presentation and we'll be with you for until about 6:30. We want to give you a sense of what we've accomplished this year and some things to look out for on the horizon. And because Amanda is here and she's elevated our youth education program to really incredible heights over the last year, we're going to spend some time talking about that, which will be a treat. So I just want to remind everyone why Friends of the Everglades was founded. It was for a very specific reason in 1969. Yes, Marjory Stoneman Douglas wrote the book, The Everglades River of Grass in 1947. She helped change the world's perception of the ecosystem from a swampy wasteland to a national treasure to be protected. But it really wasn't until 22 years after that she decided she needed a group, Friends of the Everglades, and that was to defeat the Everglades jetport, what would have been the largest jetport in the world at the time. They wanted to put it in the middle of what's now Big Cypress National Preserve so that people wouldn't hear the sonic booms. You can imagine the problems with this. So Marjory formed a group. She rallied the public, amassed incredible grassroots support at a time when we didn't have the digital tools we have to do that, and made a difference. And we won that battle with allies. The jetport was stopped after a single runway was built in the middle of Big Cypress, as you see here. And I think about that legacy of impact often because we fight some difficult battles now. We don't win them all, but our objective is always to have impact. And this is a very tangible impact. And we're having more of it with your help. So on that note, I'm going to talk a bit about the impacts we've had so far this year. Think of this as kind of a mid-year update on our progress. We have elevated over the past year our legislative accountability program in Tallahassee. As Patty was talking about during her introduction, Tallahassee can be a very challenging place to advocate. And with support from a new grant funder 2 years ago, we received a 6-figure grant to elevate our legislative accountability work and to be a counterforce to the polluting industries lobbying prowess there. And we scored some defensive wins. So this year during the session, that was the beginning of the year, January, February, March, we defeated a bill threatening wetland buffer zones. We also defeated a bad quote unquote environmental management bill that was being pushed by Representative Toby Overdorf from right here in Stewart, among others. And we helped protect local communities' abilities to keep fertilizer ordinances on the books in their communities. State lawmakers were trying to preempt that. We successfully beat that back. So we did a lot more during the session. I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but wanted to give you a high-level view of that. And just to zoom in on this quote unquote environmental management bill that was proposed, it would have left residents of Florida, citizens, on the hook for attorney's fees if they challenged an environmental permit and lost. There's a real trend of this kind of thing in Tallahassee, putting citizens on the hook for attorney's fees when they make challenges to concerning environmental projects, whether it's a development or another kind of permit. And we see this as a real, having a very stifling effect on citizen involvement and environmental advocacy by groups like Friends of the Everglades. So we raised the alarms very early on this. We've gotten more savvy as we've elevated our legislative accountability work. We saw this pop up as it was headed to its first committee hearing. We worked with allies to bombard the committee chair's office with phone calls. She didn't want to have anything to do with that mess. She pulled the bill from the agenda. It resurfaced during session in different forms, but in the end, it did not end up passing. So a legislative victory for sure. And it's the kind of defense we play year in, year out in Tallahassee. And I'm going to stop for questions at the end of my impact report because I want to hear from you all on this. Another impact we've had so far this year relates to Lake Okeechobee discharges. Some of you may know that we started the year out with a very high lake that actually dates back to Hurricane Ian's path across the state a couple of years ago. That left the lake high. And we also had a rainy winter due to El Nino conditions. So at the start of the year, the Army Corps of Engineers decided on President's Day weekend to open the floodgates east to the St. Lucie River and west to the Caloosahatchee River to lower the lake. Kind of unusual for winter time. And you can see the results. These are aerial photos from this year's discharges. Susan, I know this looks familiar to you because when you're in Florida, you're on the west coast of Florida, and you never want to see this plume of polluted lake water coming into the Gulf of Mexico down the Caloosahatchee. And same here, you can see out the St. Lucie right past our offices, the plume of polluted lake water that we saw about 2 weeks after the Lake O discharges started. We applied very intense pressure through communications, through direct advocacy to the Army Corps of Engineers, also directed at the South Florida Water Management District to find other outlets for this water and to treat it south of the lake and send it south. And the good news is that harmful discharges were halted on March 30th, and they have not resumed since then. And that is in part because we had a drier April and May, but it's also in part because of our pressure and our advocacy. And the agencies know we're going to raise hell when this happens, and we're poised to do that again if we need to. So a temporary win, but a win and impact nonetheless. And we'll see what the rest of hurricane season brings and what kind of rains we get this year. Also want to mention that we've had some pretty incredible press coverage of our work over the last several months. This is a story from Inside Climate News that relates to our Lake Okeechobee advocacy. It published in June, and it was about a campaign that we and some other groups initiated to pressure the South Florida Water Management District to send more clean water south from the lake instead of east and west to the estuaries, instead of giving the sugar industry perfect drainage and irrigation. So we've been pressuring the district. We did a targeted action campaign that flooded the water management district's governing board members' email inboxes. And we had some success and got some very strong press coverage out of it. The policy changes have not yet followed, but we're working on that both on the advocacy front and through exploring legal options. On the toxic algae front, so many of you know that our Lake Okeechobee issue isn't just about polluted and sediment-laden water flowing out both of the rivers. It's also about toxic algae being transmitted from the lake to these fragile estuaries. This is a crisis not just in Florida, but around the world, really, as temperatures increase, as nutrient pollution becomes a more dire problem. We're seeing toxic algae, especially blue-green algae and red tide, proliferate. So in response, we joined the Center for Biological Diversity and filed a formal petition to the Environmental Protection Agency, the federal EPA, to set toxic algae standards in Florida. The reason we went to EPA to do that is because the state of Florida has ignored a request to do that for 5 years. So we're hopeful that under the Clean Water Act, the EPA will use its authority to push Florida to do what it's required to do. And so what would that mean practically speaking? If we had formal standards or limits from the EPA, then we would have mechanisms to reduce pollution that lead to toxic algae and also potentially to affect water management. So not opening floodgates when toxic algae is present and could be transmitted to the St. Lucie and Caloosahatchee estuaries, for example. So proud of that work, more to come. We know that asking the EPA to do something isn't enough. We need to follow through, and we're hopeful that it'll happen. We also had some impacts on smart growth. Down at the southern end of the region in Miami-Dade County, not far from where Phil is, we've been working for 2 years to kill a 300 or so acre industrial development on very low-lying land near Biscayne Bay that is within the footprint of lands needed for Everglades restoration. So countless county commission meetings, Miami-Dade County Commission meetings, lots of advocacy, and through a series of events, including some missteps by the developers, we actually won that battle in March, and a judge ruled that this developer would have to start all over from the very beginning if they want to make this project happen. Currently, the land is agricultural. It's hundreds of acres of some of the last remaining agricultural land and homestead. And that would be a difficult battle for them because the Miami-Dade County Commission has changed and is less sympathetic since they got their first approval. So nice to have a win on that front. As you all know, Florida is one of the fastest growing states in the country. The development pressure is extremely intense. I think part of the reason may be because there are developers who want to build while they can still ensure their building product as sea level rise becomes an increasing threat. So there's an all-out assault on some of the last remaining green spaces and real pressure on urban development boundaries. And we have a long history of fighting that, and sometimes we win. We did with this one. Sugarcane burning. On this front, we made some progress in that we worked with a researcher at Florida A&M University to publish a study quantifying the health impacts of sugarcane burning. Every year, 8 months of the year in Florida, about 400,000 acres of sugarcane are burned before harvest. This is the cheapest way for the industry to get rid of the vegetation around the stalk before it harvests the cane. It's the cheapest way, but is also an extremely harmful practice that is permitted when winds are blowing toward poorer communities, communities of color south of the lake, and not when winds are blowing toward wealthier communities like the island of Palm Beach, for example. So we've been working on this for years. We've been working with allies in the communities south of the lake and the Glades, and we thought it was very important to put a fine point on the health impacts. So we released a study, supported a study, an independent study that FAMU researcher Dr. Michelle Lachaud put out, and it did link sugarcane burning with an increase in respiratory disease. All right, looking ahead, and then I'm gonna wrap up here and hear from you all. What we're watching right now as we head into the peak of summer is algae on Lake Okeechobee. This is a satellite image from NOAA just 5 or so days ago that shows that the potential for algae is really popping. The floodgates are still closed, as I mentioned, to the St. Lucie here and to the Caloosahatchee here. However, as the lake rises during rainy season, we'll see if they stay closed. And we know that algae will continue to bloom during these hot months. So we're watching that. We also have an eye on the endangered sawfish die-off in the Keys area. The leading hypothesis right now is that the extreme heat in the waters in the Keys triggered that die-off. So we're very concerned about that and have had a presentation to our policy committee from some partners that are examining the science there and tracking it. And then finally, there's a big proposal called the Everglades Airport that has cropped up in the news just in the last couple of weeks. It's not a new proposal, but it's been in the news the last couple of weeks. And we are working with an environmental land use attorney now to figure out what that could mean for Everglades restoration, what the development around that airport would mean for wildlife and water, so that we can formulate a strategy moving forward. So those are the big things on our mind in terms of policy right now. So I'm gonna pause there and see if you all have any questions about legislation, Lake Okeechobee, any other issues that I just discussed. You can tell we stay busy with all of the work we have cut out for us.
Eve, it's Ellen. Is that the airport that they tried to build once before, or is it a different location?
Are you alluding to the one I talked about at the outset?
I didn't hear the beginning.
Oh, okay,
But,
that's okay.
I mean, in the past years ago, I know that there was another airport down there that somebody was trying to build.
Right. So at the beginning, I mentioned that Friends of the Everglades was founded to stop the Everglades jetport in Big Cypress. That is a different location. We also have been involved in another airport battle in Homestead. This is a new airport expansion proposal. However, you might recall about 10 years ago, there was a push for something called the Sugar Hill development. And this is the same land that's on. A lot of this land is owned by US Sugar, and they're looking to convert to some sort of development there.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. All right. Well,
I have one thought. The EPA, you talked about the EPA possibly doing something to help on water quality. Recent Supreme Court decisions on EPA crippled that in any way? I haven't really investigated it. I know it may be problematic.
yes. So are you talking about the Chevron ruling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great question, Patty. And I just asked one of our policy and science committee members, Roy Gardner. He's a professor of law at Stetson's Law School and also a wetlands expert. I just asked him to speak on this at our policy meeting yesterday. And I, like you, I was very concerned after reading the headlines. This ruling basically says that federal agency interpretations of laws don't get deference. It's called Chevron deference, and this could be problematic. Roy's take was actually a little more measured. He doesn't think it's a death knell for environmental regulations. And he also pointed out something I did not remember. Back in 2018, Florida voters passed something called Amendment 6, which does the same thing at the state level. It doesn't allow for this deference to government agency interpretations. So we are already living with those kinds of constraints in Florida. So that the bottom line is it doesn't appear to be a death knell, but it is concerning, and it could probably cut both ways, right? If you have an agency interpreting something in a way you don't like, which we often do, like the Army Corps of Engineers, for example, then it actually could work in our favor. The flip side is if an agency is saying you need to be stronger in your regulation than a judge might say, then it could work against us.
Eve, can you give us an update on the LOSUM, the Lake Okeechobee system operating manual. I know there was some pause there, or
Yes,
could you-
thank you for asking. In fact, I meant to mention that during my Lake Okeechobee comments. For the past 5 years, Ally, has it been 4 or 5 years? We have been advocating for an improved Lake Okeechobee management plan. This is a process led by the Army Corps of Engineers. We had a draft LOSM, it stands for Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual, in hand a year ago. And it was ready to go, and it was a better plan. For the first time, it acknowledged the risks of toxic algae in lake operations. It also acknowledged the need to send more water south to the Everglades. It wasn't a panacea, but it was an improvement over the old lake plan, which resulted in those toxic summers of 2018, 2016. However, there was a major delay as another federal agency did a biological review of the impact on sea turtles. So fast forward to today, and as we sit today, we're expecting the new plan to take effect next month. And that's, again, a good thing, a step in the right direction. But in the world of the Army Corps of Engineers, one can never rest easy because they'll be starting on their next lake plan in just a few years. So we'll do it all over again as new projects come online and operations are adjusted. And I'll say one more thing about LOSM. I mean, in addition to the acknowledging toxic algae and the need to send more clean water south, at most lake levels, we will not get harmful discharges east or west in LOSM, but all bets are off when the lake gets high, over 16 and a half feet, depending on how you measure. And that's because the Army Corps has rehabilitated the Herbert Hoover Dike around the lake. It's more comfortable holding the lake higher. So it's willing to roll the dice at the lower levels. But if we get a high lake, we could really be in for some high level discharges too. This is an informed crowd. I appreciate your questions. And I'm going to share my screen again before I turn it over to Amanda. I just want to circle back to Marjory for a second too, and mention that we created this program, Marjory's Circle, with her name for a very clear reason. And that's because she was such an incredible advocate. She spoke truth to power and she made a difference. And that's really at the heart of this program. And it's what you support as members of Marjory's Circle. So didn't want to lose sight of that after throwing all of that dense policy stuff at you. So now I'll turn it over to Amanda to talk about our Young Friends of the Everglades program.
Thank you, Eve. I just want to start by saying that we are so honored by your support. It invigorates our work, and I'm really grateful that your support brings a love of the Everglades and knowledge of Marjory's legacy to our youth. Next slide. So this is a map kind of like you saw before, but this is just for the 23-24 school year. I wanted you to kind of get our Young Friends impact at a glance. These icons show classrooms, libraries, community education opportunities, and in-house field trips. And I'm going to get into a little bit more about each of those, but I wanted you to see that we're definitely making an impact, even though we're small, in just one school year. So our classroom experience includes an Everglades Learning Exploration Kit, which is packed with more than 35 books. It's got maps and hands-on resources. It's got my favorite part, which is a life-size American alligator banner that's tied to a math lesson. And we bring teachers these kits that are full of these materials and have ready-made lessons that they can easily implement to teach about Marjory and to teach about the Everglades. In addition, we have library learning kits, which are in currently 4 libraries, and we'll be expanding that. And what's really cool about these is they're also packed with lessons about the Everglades and about Marjory. They have original poetry from our 23 intern, which I'll tell you more about. They encourage students to write their own Everglades poetry, and they work with a timeline of Marjory's life in a physical way, and then create their own life timeline, including what they hope to achieve in the future. And we're really excited about that program. Our in-house field trips are super fun. Everybody wants to have more than one. Every school that we visit wants to have as many as possible. This is an opportunity for me or others to lead a lesson that's very immersive, interactive, hands-on. We teach students things about the Everglades in general, about Marjory, but also about important topics like biodiversity and invasive species and food chains. And both the exploration kits and these in-house field trips are aligned to state standards, so that teachers are super excited to be able to have their students taught these science concepts in a really engaging and exciting way. And students love the authentic artifacts that we bring, like animal skulls, which are replicas, and furs, and giant maps and things like that. This year, we are super honored and excited to be able to offer some field experiences to select schools who apply and qualify based on our funding. And this is so important to us because we know that the most important connections and learning are actually in the ecosystem. Like, that's where we fall in love, and that's where we really start to understand and realize what's worth protecting. So we hope this year and are excited this year to expand those opportunities to other schools and students, not just in Everglades National Park, but throughout Southern Florida, helping children and their teachers to connect to the Everglades in their area and helping them to be aware of the fact that it's an entire system throughout the watershed, and realize their connections to that ecosystem. Super exciting. We have a Founding Schools banner, and this Founding Schools banner is awesome and dear to my heart because it connects. We're giving one to Howard Drive, where Connie and Marta Whitehouse began this Young Friends journey in 1994. And they're also going to be shared with Royal Palm, where Connie made connections a few years ago with Marcia Cardona to reboot our Young Friends program. And I'm excited to see these up on fences, and I know that the teachers are over the moon about them. Young Friends does do a lot of youth education. That's our primary focus, but we also work to educate the community through things like conferences and public events. We share our love of the Everglades. We spread awareness of the value and also about the challenges faced. We connect with our supporters at these events. We're super excited when volunteers want to come and meet people to learn about the Everglades. This is Autumn Bryan, our incredible 2023 Karen Mashburn Environmental Scholar. She was phenomenal to work with, thanks to a very generous contribution from one of our supporters. For the last year and the 3 coming years, we get to gift a student with a scholarship and an opportunity for an internship. And as I stated, Autumn was our first recipient. She is an educator, a librarian, a poet, an author. She helped create those library learning kits you saw before. She contributed to our blog. She's still, even though she's no longer with us because she's moved on from the internship, she still tells me frequently that she's writing about the Everglades and wants to post to our blog more. So I appreciate that this opportunity not only had a benefit for her while it was happening, but that her passion and drive is continuing on. Oh, and I forgot to mention that our 2024 Karen Mashburn Environmental Scholar selection is nearing completion. I can't give details yet until it's confirmed, but we're super excited about that. I also apologize that I am saying super excited, but that's just how I feel. I'm saying that a lot, I know. The coolest thing to happen in 2024, in my opinion, is our summer programming, which has become extremely popular. We've actually had to start a wait list for the fall to get into programs. We are meeting with students in Okeechobee and West Palm Beach primarily. We'll have at least 15 schools visited in the next few weeks, which is a whirlwind and a lot of excitement. We have incredible interest, and honestly, the outpouring of positive feedback has been very encouraging. I'm really motivated by this summer programming because it's giving us an opportunity to try out new things, to get feedback in the moment and try something new or adapt it the very next day. It's going to continue to strengthen our in-class programming. And it's been a springboard for our fall programming. And I wanted to end by sharing with you that we have a really exciting project that we're currently seeking funding for. It's going to bring an immersive Everglades experience into classrooms that has not been done before. It's completely innovative and new. And I'll give you a hint, it's in collaboration with Odyssey Earth. So if you're curious, you can see a little bit about what they do, but they haven't done this before either. And with that, I will thank you again for all of your support and for welcoming me. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Amanda. You've done an incredible job. All of you should know that Amanda is a one-woman education department here at Friends of the Everglades. And I know Connie's heart swells every time she sees what Amanda has
Every
accomplished.
time.
Yeah, what the seed that Connie planted and nourished with Marjory's blessing, by the way, back in the mid-90s, has grown into something that's exceeded our expectations. And we're not doing this for the sake of doing it either. It connects to our core work because we know these are multi-generational battles to protect the Everglades. And we also firmly believe that students have to be taught about civic engagement and advocacy. We have to be careful about using the word advocacy in public schools these days. Nonetheless, we are teaching them how to engage in a pointed way. And I think that's really part of what makes our program unique. And there's some great things to come. So thank you so much, Amanda.
If I can just pop in here, this is Connie. And with those 3 children I took to see Marjory in 1994, little Amanda was her name, leaned over and said to Marjory, "Thank you so much for saving the Everglades, Marjory," or Miss Douglas, she said. And Marjory's head at 105 snapped up and she said, "Oh, my dear, the Everglades are not saved yet, and it is up to you children to save it." And we never forgot that. And that was always our mantra going forward with young friends.
Thank you, Connie. Beautiful. Any questions for Amanda before we move on?
I just want to say that children can move an agenda with their parents so much better than we can. So I know of a number of federal laws that have been passed because children went and told their congressional fathers, "I want this done." And it was done. Wild horses and dolphins in particular. So this is a really important program.
Thank you, Patty. Very true. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Scott now to talk a little bit more about Marjory's Circle.
Hello again, everyone, and I'm so grateful to get to follow Eve and Amanda because it's so easy for me to point to the impact of your giving. You've enabled us to accomplish many things this year, and thank you so much for your support. I'm just going to cover a few things about your membership. We've updated a few aspects of Marjory's Circle membership that I wanted to share with you. But one thing that's been consistent is, Eve, if we'll forward to the next slide, please, is the environmental impact. And you've just heard a little bit about the impact of your giving here, but the big thing I hope you all feel, and I know I feel when I give, is just the joy of giving. And there's so many studies that are out there about the brain chemicals that are released when we give. So again, thank you for giving. And I know you've been able to see some impact from your support tonight. One other thing is access to information. This is one of the forums for us to get together. We also send out newsletters, our website, social media. We try to keep connected as a group. I like the term circle with Marjory's circle because you are our closest circle of friends. And we want to continue to grow that circle, as Eve mentioned earlier on. Something new for us is watershed experiences and membership gatherings. These slides, or this slide here, is some photos from a nature immersion we had back in March. That was at Riverbend Park, and we were able to get out into nature and do forest bathing, is a term from Japan. But really, we were taking in the environment around us and really slowly, deliberately walking through the forest. And you see one of the pictures of one of the Marjory Circle donors, Annie Potts, just touching a tree. And so we were really encouraged to slow down and feel nature around us. And that's really part of our mission, is really to get people. That's what Amanda's doing with working with people at a young age, to get them really appreciating nature, and they're able to take that home. Patty, you mentioned involving parents. They can take that appreciation home. I know my kids, when they were a young age, we got them out and we did hiking. And I have a daughter now that's works for Outward Bound. She just learned that appreciation at a young age. So we're going to do more of these kind of things. Everybody that participated was calling for us to do it again next time, and already thinking of friends they would invite. So I encourage you to continue to look out for these kind of opportunities to get involved and be with like-minded people. Also, we're going to do some of it around, you saw the map that was shown earlier about where our members are. We want to be able to focus a little bit more in Southwest Florida. As I mentioned, that's where I got my first experience in getting into the Everglades. And so we are covering a lot of ground here with a small staff, but that's one of our goals with member gatherings and opportunities to get together in person. Another benefit is if you've been to our legacy celebration or have heard about it, Marjory Stoneman Douglas legacy celebration was in Coral Gables last year. We're going to do it again this year. We don't have a date yet to be able to announce to you, but another membership benefit is instead of $300, it's $250 for you to be able to come as a member. Giving tiers, we have added some giving tiers. The contributor level is the $1,200 that most of us give as members, and but there are opportunities to give more. And if you feel like you can, there's a supporter level at $2,500, champion at $5,000, and patrons at $10,000. Of course, this enables us even greater impact to be able to do our work, which leads me into the next point, which is the power of community. We all know, I don't know anybody down here yet. I just moved here. But you all know somebody in your community that you can share information about Friends of the Everglades with, help get them involved, invite them to come to an event of ours, forward our newsletters, send articles, anything that you can think of to encourage your friends and other acquaintances to get involved with us. That's really what we're hoping for. I'm somebody who likes to have fun, so I think we can make a big impact in our environmental work, but have a good time while we're at it. And that's really one of our goals as far as these gatherings that we're looking to do, is really create a community of people just like we have here, that can get together, hear from experts, interact with our leadership, and really tell us what you're thinking, what you know. I find articles on the internet that I send around. Other people send me ones that I haven't seen, and there's so much information out there. And that's another way for us to stay connected. Feel free to send us something if you see it that we can act on or share by social media or by email. So in conclusion, I just want to thank you again for your support. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. I look forward to the opportunity to meet you if I haven't yet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. And I just want to mention two things about Scott, who joined us late last November. Number one, he previously worked at the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, so has some great experience with a very impactful nonprofit that's larger than us. And number two, Scott, I believe you are the newest member of Marjory's Circle, and I want to thank you for stepping up and putting your money where your mouth is. So much appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't encourage people to do something I haven't done.
Very, very generous of you. So thank you. So we're gonna just wrap up here. This is our small but mighty staff at Friends of the Everglades, and we have an incredible board of directors behind us. You got to spend some time with two of them tonight, Phil and Connie. We have a board of directors of 14 currently. They have legal expertise. Some of them are committed outdoors people, others are educators, just really authentic and good-hearted people who believe in our mission and believe in carrying on what Marjory started in 1969. So I hope you get the sense and feeling that we truly appreciate this work. We love this work. In fact, Amanda and I just had a meeting this morning where we were kind of gushing about how lucky we are to get to work on this incredible cause with an amazing team. So thank you all for being here. I'm just going to open it up for any final questions and would love to hear from you.
I would just say I'm very
Okay.
impressed by the work that Amanda has done. Seeing that map of where we are now, it's just incredible to see. I think I noticed that we were in Louisville, Kentucky for some reason. How'd that come about?
So someone had asked for a kit and honestly a presentation, and we communicated that we would happily share anything digitally and share our resources, but that it was a bit far and that shipping might be exorbitant. And they were very insistent because of their excitement about the Everglades plus the quality of our resources, and asked if they paid for shipping, would we send them a kit? And I suggested environmentally that we send them a mini kit, and they were okay with that. I didn't mention in the slides that we also have had requests from Seattle, France. Like we get requests from South Korea recently. Apologies, but we do get requests from all over, and it's pretty exciting. But
And you
Louisville,
know what,
is
Amanda?
Yes, ma'am.
Amanda, that is going to happen.
What?
We're going to be able to do that in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Give me a little while though. I'm a little just
Take
kidding.
a deep breath. You're doing well. Very
Amanda has put a lot of miles on her car over the past year.
I'll be accepting donations for a new car in a few years, I'm sure.
We'll put
Thanks
North
for
Korea
that.
on the 3-year plan.
That could change everything if young friends came to North Korea.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for that encouragement, Phil. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to send an email recording of this. Obviously, we have many more Marjory Circle members that are here with us tonight, but we appreciate you all taking the time to stay connected. Next time we have a nature outing, we'd love to see you there in person. As Scott said, the forest bathing was incredible. I personally enjoyed it very much. Susan, I could see you loving it. I hope you get back down to Florida and paddle in the Everglades soon. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch soon. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Same to you, and
Thanks, Eve.
thank you
Thanks,
for
everyone.
everything, Eve.
Thanks.
Thank you.